Hello everyone, this is POW Ponder on Weather. In this video, we're going to be talking about an update on the major winter storm, plus a look ahead at what may be coming down the pike. Good morning everyone. Go ahead and hit the like button and subscribe if you hadn't subscribed already. I do daily updates on this channel to keep you ahead of the storm. So let's get right to it. Let's first of all take a look at these pieces of energy that will be coming down the pike. This is a mid-level trough and the southwest flow that's created that warm air aloft that's falling into the Arctic air. That's been the culprit of this winter storm, and a lot of it has a lot of ice and sleet, and some of this had a lot of instability with it to bring some of you guys some freezing rain, freezing sleet, and some freezing snow. But that piece of energy is going to be on the move over the next day or two. But we also have a secondary piece of energy that's going to be trailing back behind it in the Pacific Northwest. That's also going to be diving down, still with the Arctic air in place. So we still may be dealing with some freezing mixed precipitation. So let's go take a look at the overall hazard this morning, and still we are dealing with widespread major winter storm. I mean, those winter weather advisories extended well south all the way in the deep of central Texas. Winter storm warnings for much of North Texas and Oklahoma and Arkansas and Missouri. And then they continue all the way up here into parts of the Northeast as well. But widespread winter weather advisories. And there's the warm nose off that southwest flow where we deal with a lot of very heavy rain. And you can see it actually reaches all the way up into places in like the Pittsburgh, where they're just kind of in that dry slot. They're going to be kind of more or less in the safe zone. But right to the right of you, you've got an ice storm warning now with very heavy ice that's going to be impacting that area around State College. So definitely be on the lookout for a lot of ice that's going to be impacting your area over the next day or two. So let's break this down and take a look at the overall setup for this morning. They actually had some sporadic snow showers that went through West Salem and then around the Portland area earlier this morning. But there's the ice storm, and much of North Texas and much of Central Texas has really just been dealing with more or less like freezing drizzle, really light rain, but temperatures have been well into the 20s. And that's been causing havoc on the roadways. And it's been a little bit heavier precipitation in parts of eastern Oklahoma. But once we got into Arkansas, we're still dealing with that freezing rain. And they had numerous reports yesterday of that freezing rain, thunder freezing rain and thunder freezing sleet. And some of this was thunder freezing snow. So they had all perspectives, as they had a lot of instability aloft. But once it got into Tennessee and Kentucky, that's why they've got the flash flood watches in effect. You're still in the warm zone with that southwest flow. That's creating some of the flooding rains for them. And that just continues into the late morning hour, into the afternoon hour. But this is going to be on the move. It's moving about 50 miles an hour. So once this moves out, the precipitation ends in a good chunk of Texas and Oklahoma and Arkansas by the time we get into late afternoon, especially heading in towards this evening. Now the snow will shift off to Iowa, going into portions of Wisconsin here, and northern Illinois, northern Indiana, northern Ohio here, with all the rain and with feeling the effects of that warm nose continuing to lift. And there's West Virginia, there's Pittsburgh, but then we're going to be getting solid ice just to the right of you in and around the State College area as the system will continue to race across. And as it does, it's bringing the instability with it. So we'll be setting up shop for a lot of ice and a good chunk of Pennsylvania, but more or less western parts of PA will be in the drier slot, in the warm sector where you mainly get all rain with this particular event. But once you get north of there, that's the deformation zone, and that's where the heavier snow is going to be flying for all of New York. And this, you'll start impacting portions of Long Island, getting into Connecticut here, as well as Massachusetts and southern Vermont and southern New Hampshire as well, as that heavier snow will continue to be on the move later on in the overnight hours. But as we get into that Friday morning time frame, I think it really sets up shop over portions of the Northeast and New England here, with a good swath of snow setting up in Rhode Island, getting into Connecticut, especially as you go into Massachusetts, up here in Vermont, New Hampshire, a good 6 to 8, if not 8 to 12 inches of snow, where you're still getting some backfilling back into New York. And then some of this could be in the form of ice as well. So you're going to have to continue with that warm sector racing across. But it's going to make a pretty fast transition from that rain to that freezing rain to the snow as we get deeper into the morning hours. But you're going to be leaving with some pretty good totals. I mean, once we get back into over the next day, this is the extended totals on top of what you potentially seen so far. 1 to 3 inch swath. More or less, and getting into Illinois, into Indiana, and northern Ohio here, a little bit higher amounts as you head towards the lake. But there's Michigan here with a good 1 to 3 inches of some snow that's going to be moving across at 50 miles an hour. But yeah, once you get back into northern PA and especially New York, I mean, that's a good swath of 6 to 12 inches of snow. So it's going to be piling up in a big way. Several inches of snow in and around Long Island, northern New Jersey here. But yeah, once you get towards Connecticut, a good 8 to 10 inches. Once you get into Providence, Rhode Island, 6 to 8, upwards to possibly 9 inches of snow. But Massachusetts is locked and loaded with the 8 to 12 inch swath of snow in and around the Boston area. So they'll be adding to those totals as well. Along the Cape, a little bit lighter amounts, but heading back into Vermont and New Hampshire and southern Maine, a little bit lighter amounts heading towards the 6 to 8, and then further north, more or less into the 4 to 6 inch range for snow. But all this moves out by Friday. So it's between now and, into the late evening hours on Friday. It'll be pushing off the coast of Maine. But there's the freezing rain that you're going to have to be dealing with. So you're still going to have to be dealing with sporadic freezing drizzle, freezing rain for much of central Texas and North Texas, and getting into eastern Oklahoma for the next several hours. But that should quickly move away once we get into the late afternoon hours. And then you'll pick it, still adding to those totals from yesterday with more ice accumulations in Arkansas, into Missouri here, into Illinois. But yeah, once you get into PA, there's the warm sector that gets impacted with all the heavier rain, and then places into Pittsburgh where they just don't see much ice from this particular setup. But just to the right of you, that's where you could be picking up a quarter to, if not upwards to a half inch of ice into central portions of central PA and eastern PA here, with the more significant totals of ice that you're going to have to be dealing with on top of the snow. So, but here's the second setup. We got that piece of energy that's coming off the Pacific Northwest today. Now that's going to be diving down in the midsection of the country. It's still going to have the southwest flow with it, so you're going to still have that lift. The Arctic air retreats somewhat, but it's still in place. So you still got pretty significant cold in place. And as it does, and as you create that lift and this system gets close enough, yeah, you could be picking up a little bit more freezing rain transition. This time it probably sets up just northwest of the Metroplex. So if you live northwest, say places like into Wichita Falls and to southern Oklahoma, yeah, you could be seeing some mixed precipitation even into Saturday morning time frame as that secondary system comes in with that shallow cold air mass still in place, and that southwest flow will overrun this setup again. And I think it is just going to be that rain to the south of you. So much of central Texas, much of Houston here, getting into Louisiana and Mississippi and Alabama, headed into Atlanta, I think it's just all rain from that southwest flow. But you still could be getting some mixed precipitation where the air mass is going to be cold enough that some of the snowflakes or mixed precipitation of sleet could be falling out of the sky as we get into that Saturday morning time frame. But take a look at the Pacific Northwest. I think things are going to be changing for you guys in a big way. I mean, you saw that transition a little bit this morning with some sporadic snow showers in and around the Oregon area. But once we get into Saturday, I guess if you've been missing the rain, if you've been missing the rain in this area, it's going to come back with a vengeance with daily rain showers, start on Saturday. But I think this just kind of picks up as we go throughout the week, and we'll be looking at a potentially heavy rain, if not flooding rains, especially as we get deeper into Monday and throughout the week next week. So I do feel the rains are coming back for the Pacific Northwest and Northern California, and then the snow will be flying into the northern interior regions of eastern Washington. So as we make that transition, look at the water vapor imagery on the day on Sunday. There's the southwest flow. So you can actually see it starts to dry out in the mid-south and the southern plains here. But there's the southwest flow. As that secondary system will be coming up on the backside, we still have that lift. Now that lift is going to be over a good chunk of the southeast, the Tennessee Valley, heading up towards North Carolina as well as Virginia. As yet, we have more flow coming off the Pacific Northwest. You have this system coming through, and then you have one pretty much more significant system that's going to be trailing back behind it, that's going to be hitting land by the time we get into that Monday time frame. But the jet stream is going to be starting to retreat. So I think the Arctic air tries to it's lost its luster. It's been around for several days now. Now it's going to be starting to pull back, and as it pulls back and lifts up, the jet stream is going to be lifting up as well. So there's the jet stream by the time we get into that Sunday time frame, more or less well to the north. So eventually that will create a more or less zonal or Pacific flow pattern, and that gets to be more of a warmer pattern. So we'll start to warm up. We'll start to see some of those above average temperature anomalies coming back into play. But yeah, by Monday, we could be inundated with very heavy rain in Northern California, Oregon, getting into Washington here off the atmospheric river seems to be coming back for you guys up here. So definitely be on the lookout for not only just daily rain showers, but by the time we get into that Monday time frame, we're going to be looking at several inches of rain coming in on Monday with this more potent system moving across. You can actually see the swirl into it. So it's got a pretty good fair amount of lift with it. And then as this system moves, look at the tail. I mean, look at the tail back behind it. So it's going to be a relentless flow through Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday time frame, going into next week. But there's the setup on the jet stream as we get into that Monday. There's the flow. I mean, it basically comes right in the heart of Northern California, right in the heart of Oregon and Washington, but well to the north as we start to kind of retreat, and the Arctic air kind of loses its luster, and we'll be able to warm up in some of these conditions in some form in a big way, as the jet stream and the colder air still hangs intact, where they're going to be seeing a lot of that snow, and a good chunk of the snow is still going to be on the ground, and that's when it's going to keep you cold for the day on Monday for portions of the Northeast and New England. But there's the setup by Monday on the temperature anomalies. As that zonal Pacific flow starts to kick in, the warmer temperatures kick in, right? So the polar vortex retreats further back up into Canada, and that brings the zonal flow back into picture with those warmer winds off the Pacific, and you'll be creating those warmer temperature anomalies with the jet stream still buckling for the Northeast and New England with those below average temperatures still on the day on Monday. But as we get into that Wednesday time frame, I still feel it's going to be more or less above average for a good chunk of the country. But then we'll have those systems that's going to be coming across in the Pacific Northwest kind of one after another, as the blue line will start to buckle even further into New England and parts of the Northeast here, bringing back more colder temperatures for them, and more snow showers will be adding up the day on Wednesday night into Thursday time frame, with more snow coming back in the picture for New York, getting into Massachusetts here, and Vermont and New Hampshire and portions of Maine, as the relentless atmospheric river will be inundated on a daily basis with more or less rain on the West Coast. And then as we get into the interior regions and southern Canada here, as well as we get into the higher elevations, some of this could be transferring over to some snow. As you see the freezing line, it's buckling well to the north by then. So not much cold air to speak of by the time we get into that late Wednesday time frame with the jet stream well to the north. But there's your precipitation for the next week. Yeah, we get impacted. A lot of this doesn't really start till Saturday, But by Monday, we'll be adding to these totals in a big way. And we're looking at multi-inch rains over the coming days for the Pacific Northwest. We'll get some sporadic showers under that spokes of energy that on the day on Saturday. We'll be adding to some of those totals in portions of Arizona and to New Mexico as well as Colorado. But there's the setup on the southwest flow for portions of the south and the southeast. We'll still be adding to those totals for precipitation. So we still got a good chunk of, several inches of rain still left in the tank for Tennessee and portions of Kentucky. But once we get up here, most of this will be in the form of snow over the coming days. And there's the latest GFS, kind of implies the same thing. So a good chunk of flooding rains come back for the Pacific Northwest. And overall, here's the snow amounts. I mean, yeah, some pretty impressive amounts. I mean, most of this is going to be falling on the day on Friday, but we do get some back half snow that's going to be coming on Wednesday. But yeah, some of these totals, I mean, look, most of these are over a foot over the next week for much of New York, much of, Connecticut here, Massachusetts, Rhode Island, getting into Boston, Vermont, New Hampshire, heading into Maine. So all those areas should at least for the next week, most of it's going to be falling on Friday, but we're going to be adding to some of those totals Wednesday and Thursday. Easily a foot up to 18 inches by the time you measure the snow stick, by the time we get into the next Thursday time frame. But lighter amounts as you head towards the Ohio Valley, getting into Wisconsin, getting into Michigan here. And then there's heavier snow and the higher elevations of eastern Washington here, northern Idaho, and portions of northern Montana. So hey, I appreciate you guys watching. Be safe if you're still in that winter storm warnings in place. So you're dealing with all that ice and treacherous travel. I mean, don't leave the house if you don't have to, because it's pretty dangerous to drive on that ice. So please be careful. And I appreciate you guys watching. Be sure to like this video and definitely hit the subscribe button, and catch me in the next update where I protect you before after the storm.